Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good happy time zone, as you like to say.
Yeah, happy time zone, everyone.
Welcome to our December Q4 webinar. We are seeing the list of attendees just explode, so that's awesome, and happy to see everyone.
Happy end of year, happy December as well.
You can see we have the Hurricane Labs Christmas decorations in the background. We'll actually be using some of the things on the tree for this webinar, but
Here, I'll pull one down.
yeah, this this is my favorite decoration we have. These are authentic, handmade by some of our SOC engineers, ram wreaths that they designed and put together. They look awesome and great use for failed memories, I guess, or
Yeah,
something
and
like
a
that.
lot of zip ties.
Yeah, a lot of zip ties, but Ethernet cable for that. I'm not sure if it's a crossover or a straight through cable. I didn't check the pinout. Let's see.
All we know is the cable.
No, it's a straight through cable, but
All we know is that it was broken, so we gave it a purpose.
yes.
All right, we'll give folks a few more moments to hop in.
And then we'll excitedly talk about social engineering, and I know one of your favorite topics.
It's absolutely my favorite topic.
And by extension, it ends up being the thing I have to be concerned about constantly because it's your favorite topic.
Have I ever social engineered you?
Yes.
Oh, shoot. The correct answer to that was no.
Oh, darn.
Actually, can you give me an example of when I social engineered you?
We will in the webinar.
Okay, okay.
I think we're 2 minutes in. We should
Yeah,
just go ahead and fire away.
kick it off.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Happy December. We want to talk about Meredith's favorite topic, and by extension, one of mine, the human attack surface or social engineering, and prepare you for 2026.
Or as I love to call this particular webinar, the art of persuasion or messing with people, if you will, but on a professional level that you get paid for. It's always a good, fun time.
Exactly. So for today's agenda, we have a couple things we want to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about overview of social engineering, how it is used, and some of the tools and techniques. We're going to do a demo. We want to do a live audience participation to the best of our ability, given the constraints of a webinar, but you get to talk to us, and that's going to drive what we're going to do. And then also have room for Q&A and also talk about what we're seeing in the wild at clients for social engineering and what we do to protect against some of the attacks that are happening. So, who are we?
So, if you all saw our wonderful promotional video, my name is Meredith Casper. I am the Director of Technical Operations here at Hurricane Labs. I've been here for just shy of 9 years. And yeah,
You're
I'm
Director
a
of
social
Technical
engineer by
Services,
I am a
but
Director of Technical Operations.
okay, that's fine. I'm also the Director of Technical Operations then
That's
in
true.
Hurricane, and I've been here for 13 years and do a lot of the smoke management services and other random technical things that come up. But I also get to participate in a lot of training exercises that involve pen testing, red teaming, and work with Meredith on that. So this falls into things that we both like to tag team and want to use this for good.
So some of you folks may already know this, but what is social engineering at its core? It's really the art of persuasion, or as I said, I like to say, the subtle art of messing with people. Whether that be leveraging persuasion via fear tactics, keying off of body language, even costuming and props, which we'll get into as well. But it's really the art of persuasion or manipulating somebody's mind into either doing what you want, performing an action you'd like, or getting some information from them.
And really, the idea is you are trying to be confident in your role and convince someone else that you have the authority or the right to get whatever you're trying to accomplish. And that's where persuasion and being confident comes into play. So, how do you do persuasion?
So when you are persuading somebody to get what you want, when you are socially engineering, the main thing is to be confident in your character. So when you are social engineering, especially if you are working on behalf of another party, you are likely going to create yourself a character. You want to become that character. If you've ever taken an acting class, it's very much like method acting, where you fully immerse yourself into that role. You come up with a new name, like, for example, I'll say for the rest of the day, my name is Jenna. Then I am Jenna. I will change the name in my phone to Jenna. If my sister texts me, I will say, hey, no, my name is Jenna today. That way, if I am out social engineering somewhere, that if somebody texts me, it has the correct name. And your goal is to convince that target to give you exactly what you want. You have that full character, and you believe that you are your own social engineering premise.
Yeah, and as part of these premises, what are some things that someone might be trying to do?
So, depending on the scope of whatever the particular social engineering engagement is, whether you're portraying a nation state whose goal is to get all the way from initial access um into your environment, or if your primary goal is physical access into a location, um you need to target that and focus on exactly what your end goal is, and you shape your character and your premises and everything that you're using around that.
Okay, so physical access. Let's say I want to get into a facility. Let's say, yeah, I'm going to be construction worker.
Sure.
So I'm, putting on a high visibility vest because now I'm suddenly more authorized to enter a secure area because I'm dressed like someone who's supposed to be there. What else do I need?
You grab your props.
Okay. So I have a ladder now, as I almost kill Meredith with the ladder. But
Please don't.
yeah, I'll try not to. But like you do this, you maybe I have a clipboard or something else in my hand, Like
Say
let's
yes.
say right here, I'll grab a clipboard, I got that. And now someone's gonna hold the door for me.
Yeah.
Because my
Grab.
hands are full. I'm walking fast like I usually do. I look important. I'm potentially threatening the health of someone with a swinging ladder,
Please don't.
and
Please also
and
don't
all
hold
of a
up.
sudden like that, you are more likely to see that I am going to have someone hold that door and let me in because you're exploiting human nature.
Yeah. And, exploiting human nature is one of the greatest or worst things about social engineering, especially when you're looking at physical access. And we'll dip into this a bit more later on, but my personal favorite premise is going the bribery route, along with what Tom was mentioning about holding something heavy. So, say you've got like 2 or 3 dozen donuts from your local Krispy Kreme, as well as, a case or two of coffee. And that's about, $30 with one of the random coupons that they say only ever comes once a year, but you get, weekly. Spend $30, get a bunch of food, and then struggle to get into doors, try to get in. People are more likely to help you because, hey, you have the office snacks. And when they help you, you go, okay, thanks so much for your help. Open the top box, grab a donut. And they're like, oh, awesome. I helped out. I get my snack. Everything's good.
That works very well.
Bribery always works.
So I think before we start going into too many details, let's get the audience involved. So we're going to leverage chat for this since we can't see and hear all of you. But let's build an attack. So in the chat or the Q&A, either or wherever you want to type, let's come up with an idea of what type of organization do we want to try to get into. Just start throwing off some names of things, and we'll pick something that we like. This can be, any kind of thing. Okay, McDonald's. So for McDonald's, would that be something? Do we want to get into an individual store? Do we want to try to get into their headquarters? Do we want to get into the supply, like the warehouse where they have the fresh, never frozen hamburgers or whatever
That's
that's a different company. The very frozen hamburgers. Uh, let's see.
warehouse or shipping facility, IBM. Ooh, the Louvre. From what I hear, you rent a truck for about $20 and you're probably good.
Fun fact: you have to be 25 to rent a rental car, and you only have to be 18 to rent a U-Haul. So which actually kind of comes into a funny experience. We had an airport a couple weeks ago where they were like, "Hey, do you want to rent this convertible? Oh, wait, are you old enough to rent the convertible?" I'm like, "Yes." And then I drove away with a convertible in November and had the top down because that's what you do when you rent a convertible, regardless of the fact if it's 30 degrees outside or not.
On the East Coast in November. Let me just put this out there.
It's fine.
All right.
So,
So,
headquarters of McDonald's, the Louvre, uh,
a warehouse or shipping
where
facility, IBM. Okay. So we can definitely work with all of these. So, now that we have a couple different options identified, what type of premise do you want to go with? And what do you actually want to target here? So once again, we're gonna, pick some random choices, pick and choose from them all. So start throwing out ideas on your premise as well as what you want to target. Do you want to steal the recipe for the ratio of salt they use on their French fries? Or I
The crown jewels of the French Empire.
Hey, from what I understand, McDonald's and Coca-Cola have some exclusive deal on the ratio of soda water to their like Coke liquid. So that could be a valid thing to want to steal, either physically or digitally.
Or it could just be a case where you want to get physical access. Like, can I end up in a conference room at the McDonald's headquarters?
One of my personal favorite social engineering engagements was, can you break into a secured area of a medical facility? And I forgot one of my most critical props, but the answer is yes, because nobody questions the weird girl with a doll.
So I guess let's go with headquarters of a company like McDonald's. Oh, install the cameras into the McDonald's kitchen. Okay. Like the test kitchen that they have inside of, presumably they have a facility where they're, figuring out the latest Big Mac iterations or something like that. So we'll go with that. We want to install, put a piece of equipment into that room.
Sure, let's go with that. Okay. So let's talk about crafting our premise here. So our goal is to get physical access into headquarters, and we are targeting one very specific either room or area in this facility. So how do we want to go about getting our initial foothold?
Well, first we're going to have to try to figure out what the facility looks like and what sort of access controls they have in place, and is it a place where there's multiple like doors and things like that, or is it something where everyone goes and leaves through one area?
So the first thing that we're going to do there is start preparing by heading towards what I can only assume is a giant building with some golden arches in front of it. Just my assumption. And we're going to spend some time there, heading out front, essentially staking out the place, if you will, to see, okay, does it look like there's a visitor entrance, as Tom was saying? Are there, are employees only heading through one entrance? Are we not really seeing people come through the front? Is there maybe some sort of side entrance or back entrance? Is there a parking lot around? If there is a parking lot, is that gated? Just trying to see from the outside how you would get in and where you would fit in with the flow of employees. Traditionally, when looking at a premise such as this, you likely want to masquerade as an employee, since that would be the highest percentage of people within that location, and you want to blend in with them.
Although that said, you can very easily get a lot closer by playing a dumb DoorDash driver who's confused. Not saying anything about DoorDash drivers here, but just you have a delivery that you're taking. You're not sure where it goes. You walk up to a door, you try to access it. You're carrying something like, oh no, you need to go to that door. You can go wander there, but you're already gathering some information, somewhat actively, but still more passively than not.
Yeah, and showing up once or twice saying like, "Hey, oh, I have another order today," or "Hey, somebody ordered Instacart groceries." Um, you know, Go online, do some open source intelligence, say, "Okay, there's this executive assistant who posts online all the time. Maybe they're on vacation, but they had an Instacart order scheduled. Instacart order scheduled." And you go ahead and go with that premise. Now they're even more likely to let you in the building and to take you up to a specific area.
And you also think about, it used to be when you were getting deliveries, like it would be someone from UPS or FedEx, they'd be dressed like a UPS employee, they're driving a big truck. Have there been social engineering attacks where someone has made a fake UPS truck? Absolutely. But more often than not now, with like Amazon and other delivery companies where it's a random person in their personal vehicle delivering something, they might have a vest that says Amazon delivery driver, which, fun fact, you can buy on Amazon.
You can also buy on eBay for 14.99.
And that's all there is to say. You can get an Amazon box from any recycling bin in the United States, and there you go.
Yeah, and you can walk into pretty much any uniform store anywhere and grab a brown shirt and the brown shorts or brown pants for UPS, and they sell 20 or 50 packs of their emblems, both officially and unofficially. I mean, you could even just wander into a local store and say, "Hey, I got a shirt custom made for my job. I need the UPS logo put on there." Once again, a little bit of social engineering ahead of time as you're building your premise, but you can get that done too at a local place.
Yeah.
So, taking the McDonald's corporate example here, and focusing on putting cameras into the test kitchen. So this is one that I would find interesting because your goal is to both get into a location and drop some items, or stage up some items. So you go with the here. You are a tech nerd.
Okay.
You've got your standard tech t-shirt. Intel looks like a nerdy logo. I'm sure that people know what Intel is. There you go. Thank you. You grab firewall,
Piece of equipment. This is
piece of
this
equipment.
is our camera system.
Yeah,
For
this is our camera
It's a
system for this
Palo
example.
Alto camera system. No worries about that.
Okay, this is my entertainment console firewall. Thank you very much. In all honesty, you grab power cord, grab some cables,
Yep. Okay.
and you go, "Hey, I'm here for the blah blah blah
And
camera install."
honestly, ladder is not bad if you're trying to go for a higher area in this
Yeah,
case. So we're going with that.
you got your props, you got your hands full. Now you go hunt down exactly where you need to get in. And either through your recon of just watching the building, or if you did do something a bit more interactive where maybe you were existing as a UPS driver, a DoorDash driver, or if you had somebody else who was on your team who did that first for you, you know where to go, or you know what the expectation is. And you can either choose to be somebody who is directly an employee of, in this case, McDonald's, or you could be somebody who is a contractor and you just got called out from, tech services in Minnesota and you're very lost, but you know that you have these things to do.
And this might be a case where if there are multiple entrances to the building, say a loading dock, or where there, loading dock where there's kitchen equipment that's coming in, or an area where the employees hang out to take breaks, smoke breaks especially, you can just walk up there and be like, is this the right entrance to go to? Or, here, I need to get to this area, and someone may be helpful enough to let you in.
Yeah, say first day. Or I'm only here for a couple hours. I walked outside to my truck and now I don't know where to get back.
Yeah.
Easy, easy.
Can you let me back to this area? If we find a visitor bag somewhere or know what they look like and have one that's pre-made, all the better.
Yeah. One of my favorite additional tools is a Zebra card printer where you can just print IDs. Um, you can't really print like an actual, driver's license or whatnot, but printing like a visitor badge or something, that's usually pretty simple. And if a company has photos of those available, that's another thing where as you're doing your open source intelligence and recon, look for posts on LinkedIn, look for photos where you see folks who said, it was so great to welcome in this wonderful CEO or this nonprofit, and take a look and see if their badges are facing forward, what they look like. If they're turned around, that's a really good sign of a great corporate security policy where they won't take a photo with the badges visible.
Yeah. And we've definitely seen places do that. And that's awesome when they're like, hey, you can take a photo. We have a photo wall, just don't have our badges visible.
Yeah,
Perfect.
seems more than reasonable.
So let's go through the anatomy of a social engineering attack, and now that we've built one.
Yeah. So as we said, the first couple things you're going to identify are the overall goal of your attack, as well as your target. So in this case, our target was McDonald's, and our goal was to deploy a camera system or drop some cameras into the test kitchen. Then you're going to go through the more active phases, where you start performing open source intelligence. You are Googling the heck out of this company, figuring out every little piece of information that you can to build your premise and determine the approach that you're going to be taking.
And this is a case where like geotagging of the location that you're doing can be really useful. Like photos that are geotagged to location, Twitter or X posts that are tagged to a location, that can give you a lot of insight about who's there, what they're talking about, and what, the location might even look like.
Yeah, and Instagram, I will say, has been super handy for that since folks more and more nowadays have been posting photos at work for people who don't get the wonderful luxury of working remote. I say as we're in the office. And then, the different areas of approach that we called out here are both virtual in nature, but if you are determining that you need a physical approach and that's something within your scope, this is where you would make that determination and, of course, have that conversation with a client to say, hey, this is what I know I want to do. This is what I know needs done.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to I know we were talking about physically going into an office, but a lot of these social engineering attacks, especially the ones that we're seeing are very prevalent, are remote because the attackers, it's a lot easier to try to get into a company remotely and spend that effort making phone calls as opposed to physically going somewhere. And there's a lot less risk of being caught too, especially if you're not in the United States. So once you execute your attack, that could be, get into a facility, get access to credentials, reset a password, whatever you want to do. Then you pivot and you adapt based on the results, and you get that target. Um, so Meredith, in terms of targets, are there a certain type of user or an individual we should be looking to target, or is it just any person at an organization is good, or are there certain users that are better?
So this will always be based on your overall goal of the attack. You are going to shape your target and the folks that you are targeting as to whatever the situation may be. So, in this case, as we called out, we are looking for some folks at this area who would help us get into the test kitchen. Whether that be somebody who we know has access, somebody who we know who is a member of the test kitchen. If you are performing some sort of reconnaissance ahead of time, or you're just sending phishing emails or doing vishing, you're going to perform your OSINT and say, okay, I need somebody in IT who can reset a password. So I need to call the help desk and say, I already spoke to person X and person Y, and they told me to call you all because they set the rest of my stuff up. And then when it's not, it's like, oh, dang it. I really thought James had already updated my phone number. Can you update my phone number so that you're swapping over MFA, for example?
And this could be a case where, let's just say they have an intern program and they hired, four people to be interns at the food production facility there. Let's say one of them posts on social media saying, "Hey, I'm so excited on Monday I start my new job at McDonald's." On Monday, you call the help desk saying to that person, you're trying to figure out how to get into your computer. And I'm a new employee. I'm scared. I don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
That can be a really effective strategy.
But yeah, let's talk about some of the common premises that we've both used and seen happen in actual social engineering attacks.
Yeah. So forgotten passwords is always your bread and butter and good one there because we have passwords, we forget them. Humans do that. So that's something you see a lot. And I feel like anytime that I go ahead and reach out to like a client to get a password taken care of, I always feel like I'm a little bit guilty, trying to social engineer the help desk, even though it's like, I know I'm supposed to have access to this. I don't work here, I guess, but I need a password, please. And it feels a little bit weird, but that's kind of like a legitimate thing that you have to do. And everyone in an organization that has a password at some point is going to forget it and need to call the help desk.
Or similarly, if you are in an organization with MFA, um, at some point, you may pull a me and drive over your phone. So now you have a new phone where you need, a new physical device where you need your MFA reset or swapped over to a new system. And that's something where you're gonna once again have to call the help desk, work with them on a reset.
And that's just particularly something if you're not doing company issued devices. If you're BYOD, you have no control over your employees bringing new phones. So you don't know if that device is actually something bad happened to and they got a new one, or if it's someone just trying to take advantage of your multi-factor policy.
And very similarly, same goes for laptop updates, upgrades. Whether or not you are BYOD, somebody saying, okay, somebody's posted a photo with their company laptop and it's the latest and greatest ThinkPad, pick your ThinkPad model series here. And from looking at the photo exactly what type of ThinkPad it is.
Like, I'm struggling with trying to, get into this network. I just had a Windows update run. Um, how do I get on the Wi-Fi? Those sorts of things.
Yeah. Whatever information you can solicit and, you know, start taking notes on all of that, see what they're willing to give you. And depending on what your target is, that may be all you need to do is call the help desk for 10 minutes and talk through some things as an end user.
Yeah. Your new employee situation where, oh, it's my first day. I'm trying to get into my system. Laptop, it just showed up. But I tried to log in with the credentials they gave me. Is this the right username? Give them something like, oh, no, your username follows this pattern. You're getting some more information. It might take multiple calls to get this information, but over the course of multiple attempts, you can find that out. I worked with something in the past where you needed to know a manager's name, and I didn't know that information, but the help desk told me. So it's like, if that's a factor of authentication, the help desk is telling me that that's not really a good approach. And then I know who I need to target as for social engineering that specifically, or talk to someone else who works with that person.
Or you hang up and call back, a couple days later and say, hey, my manager is X and I need Y.
Yep.
Um, very similarly as you were saying, just overall contractor looking to perform work is one of the very common premises where you're tangentially related to the organization. You do some things to help us know, so, oh, okay, I know that, we work with this company, so we have a partnership there. If one of their employees is calling in, it's probably fine. But more on the physical side, the most common premises we see, delivery drivers, whether that be for food, packages, just folks who would be running in and out of the building who, unfortunately, if you are in a uniform related to either the building or the service industry, typically people pay less attention to you. So they don't really notice exactly what you're doing because you're likely either heading to drop something off or coming back from that. And sometimes they may help you out if you're saying, hey, I'm looking for, you know, Travis on the 53rd floor or something of that nature.
It's the same idea why they were able to get one of those scissor lifts right into the side of the Louvre, because it's like, oh, it's construction equipment. This is just meant to be here.
Yeah, somebody's just cleaning the window.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean the window's broken?
And also the window is now a newly installed window in the side of the wall. But those things happen. Emergency services, that can be like fire system inspections. It could be police officers. It could be medical services. Like, hey, we got a call that someone needs help here.
For what it's worth, though, that is very, very, very illegal.
Yes.
Best bet on terms of emergency services are, as Tom said, like people from who are with the building who are doing inspections on your exit system, your fire suppression system. Hey, I'm here to clean the windows today. Things of that nature, less emergency services themselves, but more building management and maintenance.
Yeah, you're less likely to see premises that are felonies happen, but also when you're dealing with criminals anyway, that's less of a concern that they have.
Yeah, it does depend on if you're dealing with a criminal or a social engineer who's targeting your organization for a very specific reason.
And Fred is a great call out there for McDonald's health inspector. And that is something where everything stops, when the health inspector shows up and everyone starts putting away all the crimes, so like that could be a good cover for sure.
Yeah. And then physically just walking yourself right to security and, saying, hey, I don't have my key card with me today, or I lost my fob, or, once again, if you can leverage open source intelligence to find what something would look like physically, go find one, or, wander to a Goodwill and find one that may look a little broken. Smash it more, say, hey, my key fob's damaged. I need a new one. Great. What's your name? Here's my name, and see if they are willing to either rekey you, provide a new key card, give you an updated fob, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So let's talk about some specific examples.
So, funnily enough, though, as this webinar is going on, I have had 3 different social engineering phone calls of folks trying to either get a document from me, or send me some wonderful business information. And please click on this link. We're going to send you a text, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah. Wonder if it's some attendees causing chaos or if it's just really good timing. We won't be able to put screenshots of those right in the slides, but it is funny.
Yeah.
So a couple examples. We're going to talk about phishing, smishing for more your text and your emails, baiting, tailgating, pretexting, and quid pro quo, which I know is your favorite. We just kind of alluded to tailgating,
Yeah.
where physical door access key card required. You don't have that. You can either be carrying something or you can just time your walk to the point where you get there right where they do. They hold the door open and let you in. And if you're in an organization where they don't have a culture of everyone needs to badge in, especially if it's a larger group of people coming back from a break, you can just blend in. You don't know everyone who works inside of a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. Or, worst comes to worst, if everybody is badging in, if you're in a larger group, just have a regular card, from, as I said, like from a random card printer, where there isn't anything in there that would actually cause your RFID or whatever the case may be for your key cards, their key card system to alert. So literally just a plain plastic card. Tap that on there so that you blend right in with the folks as well. And they're like, oh, okay, heard the beep from the last one. It's probably, too close in succession, and you're just golden.
Yeah, if you just try to do it quickly or don't go all the way, people won't even catch that a lot of times. And I know this, I have been places where I have inadvertently left my key card somewhere, and this has been effective to get in just because, oh, I'm supposed to be here. And if you look like you're supposed to be there, you walk like you're supposed to be there, you act confidently, people are less likely to question that too.
We also like to call it the most effective way to get into any college dorm ever. Just stand outside waiting for somebody to walk in. Or you see a group of people walking in and you're on the phone, just join in with them. College kids are friendly. They don't care if you're in their dorm room. They just don't want anything to get caught by the room attendants
Yep.
or the RAs. All right, so talking through some phishing examples. So this is a wonderful, wonderful email that says that they're looking for some feedback on 1Password. And we've had some folks internally who are really large fans of 1Password, and this was one of the an actual email that came through as a phish, where at first glance, we're like, okay, that looks pretty legitimate, but at the same time, 1Password's probably not going to send out a general phish to just end users baiting for $100 worth of gift card. That's really vague. Please go ahead and click this link. They're a security company. They're not going to do that. And this ended up being a really interesting phish.
And this also was one that was flagged as being suspicious.
Yes, it was suspicious enough where Google Chrome determined, hey, this site is likely deceptive because rather than just being 1Password, it was the 1Password, similar to the Ohio State University. But yeah, sometimes you'll get this deceptive site ahead warning, and that's usually a sign that somebody has spun something up. For a while, it's been up for a while, and they've been using this premise a bit. You usually don't see that pop right up for brand new phishing links. But we'll talk through baiting.
Yep.
So, as we were talking about college
People
students,
people love free stuff. College students love free pizza. So I think this is one you actually used when you were doing help desk work, right?
it may have been.
Okay. At a college campus. So I imagine your success rate was quite high.
Yes. Well, the running joke when I was in college was always the college students' favorite words are pizza and free. And if you combine the two together, people will do whatever you want. And when this had a 70% click rate and a 50% of that 70% rate of entering in information and credentials, which why are you signing into your student email address like login page after clicking free personal pan pizza coming from Pizza Hut? Not my circus, not my monkeys.
All I'm
But
saying is if you achieve 70% of people reading an email, like this we should use for like corporate announcements, free pizza. Like
honestly, free pizza company is closed tomorrow. Sounds great.
but man, yeah, but when you have that sort of a hook that you're using, just like the idea of phishing, it doesn't matter how illogical it is. It's like I'm hungry, want free pizza, will enter credentials, and unfortunately, that is quite effective against people.
So I just like to file a complaint that apparently you're too tall and I'm too short. So
Okay.
cool. So this next one, this is a really, really interesting baiting scenario because this one absolutely blew my mind back in 2018. So this was an email from Denny's that looks like a fish. Say, hey, change your password and get a discount at Denny's. What? Why? What happened? I saw this, saw it in my email, went red flags going off, did all of my normal triage tools, tried to see exactly where the links were going, what was going on. Turned out that this was a legitimate email and this looked so much like a fish that sometimes I realized, you've come full circle to the point where you've tried to do something good to tell people, hey, it's been about a year, update your password, but you've come back around into, no, you're lying to me. I'm not touching this. I'm not clicking this. So that was really interesting.
I'd say the only thing that makes this slightly more believable is the whole it's not like get a free meal at Denny's, it's just 20% off. So like maybe it's not too good to be true, but still like a little bit weird. Um Smishing for text messages. This is one that I got. And obviously it doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you're talking about a specific, location and sending a whole bunch of these messages, it doesn't cost a lot to send messages to tons of people, and all you need to do is get a couple of ones to click. And you'll see obviously like duckdns.org with some other help desk thing. a bunch of Unicode characters to try to avoid detection for words and things like that. You can see what they were trying to do. I would think that most of you on this call though are going to see this sort of thing and think, this is sketchy. I don't want to go on that. So let's look at a different example.
Yeah. So this is baited vishing. So you're mixing bait where you're trying to get somebody to either click a link or take an action along with a request for voice phishing. They're telling you, hey, this was sent from some random email address via text message, email to text, whatever the case may be. And saying, hey, call this number, use this, pin here to either approve or decline a suspicious transaction. And of course, you're going to call to say, no, I never made that. And then, engage with the people who are performing that phishing activity.
Yeah, and small amount. If it was a little bit more, it might be more believable and also drive more people to call. But if we see all these things happen with Amazon and other providers where it's like everyone has placed an order to Amazon in the last couple of days, it seems like. So it's very believable. And if you have something where it's a higher amount, that could lead to some red flags there.
So as we've talked about many, many a time, when you are phishing somebody through voice, that's called vishing. This is I'm not sure if this is a screenshot from you or from
Oh,
me,
this is one I got. Yeah.
but
I'm
um,
sure you've also talked to these
oh,
scammers too.
I
So
absolutely have, and that's why I don't mind that their phone number is here wonderfully in clear text. Feel free to give them a call. They're super friendly, and if you mention my name, they'll probably hang up. But these are folks who have a very organized scam where they are vishing folks trying to get payment information to spin up a fake Comcast Xfinity service, either for business or home, or a bit of both for just $20 a month. And then they try to say, actually, if you pay $150, out of the gate, give us your credit card information, lock down this rate, you won't have to pay anything else for the rest of the year. And then, they've had quite a few people who have bitten on that premise, from what I understand. And yeah, this has been a scam organization that I have personally started targeting since they went after my parents. And while my parents decided to call me, luckily, I now go after them on a recurring basis where I will essentially robocall these folks until they stop.
and I think the only thing that really tipped off your parents in that case is just the fact that Comcast Xfinity doesn't serve Cleveland. So if they actually had it with one of the local providers like Cox, for example, that would be something that's a lot more believable. So obviously, when you're doing bulk calls like that across every phone number, you can't customize it, but you just kind of go for the best, best guess. But it's only a matter of time that you're going to ring someone who has Comcast or send an email to a person who has KeyBank as KeyBank or fake KeyBank, and that's it's a game of numbers for a lot of this.
It really is. And one of the best portions about this is, if you are an attacker who is working with an organization who is doing some form of vishing, leaving a voicemail also validates and gives a little bit more credence to whatever your premise is. Because you've left a voicemail, said, hey, give me a call back at this number, or I'm going to follow up at this time if you're, going a cold call route. But people will know, okay, this person has reached out. They said they were with this organization. They'll remember that so that if sometime they do pick up the phone, they're like, okay, I know Comcast has called 4 times. This is Comcast.
And then you also see a lot of times with Apple, it actually says if something is, hey, this is so and so, it'll suggest that person as a contact
Yeah.
in your text messages there. So
Maybe.
oh, this is somebody I have a relationship with already.
Yeah.
Not that ever happened on Signal group chat earlier this year with the government or anything like that. But those things happen sometimes too. Pretexting.
All right. So, Tom, do you want to talk about this one since you are definitely featured in the photos here?
Oh yeah. So this is from a more of a student-led teaming engagement, but Meredith decided to be the event photographer, which she was not the event photographer. She was also on the same team as me.
I became the event photographer.
Okay. So they didn't know you at the time.
They didn't know me.
You had a nice camera.
I brought along a very nice camera and some wonderful swag bags because, shocker of all shockers, I absolutely love giving out free things in exchange for information. So I brought along swag bags, some nonsense photo release forms, and I had my really nice camera on my neck. Said, hey, got some swag bags from some of our sponsoring companies. this is the photo release form for the event. Do you guys mind if I take a few photos? And there wasn't a team of students who was more than happy to invite me into their room, have a chat, let me take some photos. And I made some really good friends, who I also get to do some volunteer work with now. But
You also got some really nice photos of their password sheets.
I did. I also got some really nice photos of screens. And while pretending to be that event photographer, I also spent time with those students and with those teams in those rooms where, as you can see from the first photo, everybody's there giving me a thumbs up because right before this, they were explaining to me how their firewall worked and what their firewall rules were and what they were doing. As I was sitting there like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to write up some notes so that when I, post this photo, there's a little blurb about what's going on, but I'll make sure to redact it and everything for privacy. And they're like, okay, that's super cool. But I was actually just on their firewall from my phone, undoing the rules that they had just put in place.
And then I came back after you would go into the room to take photos, and I would walk in as a known bad actor, and then you'd be able to get photos of them being offended that I was trying to take photos of things. And it was just a funny irony of that,
Yeah.
where but the whole idea is like if you had started walking in there just with your iPhone camera, probably would be taken a little less seriously as the event photographer. Just having a fancier Nikon or something, a Canon camera, whatever you want to use, that's gonna show a little bit more credibility. You look like you know what you're doing. Oh, this person's allowed. Carrying a bag of equipment,
Yeah.
that helps.
Carrying professional equipment or something that looks professional works really well.
So I think we need to get to the elephant in the room because we are legally required to talk about AI in 2025 and going into 2026 for everything. So let's do that because this really changes a lot of social engineering, and I think makes our job as defenders a lot harder.
So with the ability to clone a voice and then have it replay either key phrases or just emulate that voice for a call, you can make your social engineering pretexts and even direct conversations with a help desk employee way more valid because hey, if you need to call their manager onto the phone to say, does this sound like Jessica? Yeah, that sounds like Jessica's voice because AI has done a pretty good job at cloning a voice with only 15 to 30 seconds, I would say, of um, a recording of somebody's voice. So if you've got somebody who runs a blog or some
Post
sort of
things on
podcast,
YouTube.
yeah, you've got
Happens to have a webinar on the internet. Oh wait, darn.
it's okay. Nobody wants AI deepfake Meredith. That's fine.
But those are all things where there's enough samples of voice where you can run that through a tool AI and generate a prompt. And we've seen that, we've used it for different things where you have the two AIs talking to each other potentially and see, if one can detect if it's an AI or not. Um, that was actually a really cool example that we did for the help desk scenario, and basically had a deep fake of one of our employees call a real help desk and see how that worked. And I would say the biggest thing that was a bit of a giveaway was just some things were unnatural in terms of phrasing and pauses, but that just keeps on getting better. And that was a year ago, and that's improved so much
That
now.
was a year ago, and depending on the prompt, we noticed that some of the prompts were engineered to say, do not pause, speak in a more rushed and urgent tone, and it followed those things, and now those felt more human than your standard ones where you're just saying, hey, try to get a password for user X. Um, and when you combine that AI voice phishing with leveraging AI to generate an email so that you can send an email as pretext to, maybe help at company.com to say, hey, I need a password reset. I can't get into my thing, so I can't get into my email, and leverage AI to build out a nice, scenario and example as to why your password failed to make your life a bit easier. We've seen folks leverage that.
Yeah. And I know one of the other things you see a lot of times it's like if an email has obvious like nonsensical spelling errors or grammatical mistakes, those sorts of things, it's obviously fake. What generates text really well and sounds professional and friendly? AI.
Friendly, I wouldn't necessarily go
Depends
as
that it depends on how you tell your AI to behave, but like the the ability to create written word with AI versus having someone have to type that out, you're not running into the same situation where those same errors exist that are clear giveaways. And that's making it even harder to detect these things too. And then the know before job interview scenario.
Yeah, somebody successfully leveraged a deep fake of a video of a random person where they grabbed hours of somebody else on YouTube, basically crafted a persona, and successfully interviewed and got themselves hired at a phishing and anti-phishing and cybersecurity education organization. And KnowBe4 did a really, really great write-up on the lessons learned, things that they now look to detect while in their interview process to prevent these things from happening. And I will post that in the chat just so that everybody's got it. Well, Tom, you can keep going.
Yeah. So AI obviously makes things more difficult and kind of is going to raise the stakes. But we're on the defense side. We have to figure out how we protect against these things. So we really want to talk about how we stay vigilant. How do we ensure that these types of attacks are less likely to be successful, and how do we help defend our organizations? So, in terms of staying vigilant, every social engineering presentation is going to say something about being careful about links because don't click on links. That is said all the time. It's old news at this point. Honestly, you can't assume that people are going to be careful about links. You can try to hope for the best, but realistically, it's going to be something that happens.
Yeah, at the end of the day, assume that folks are going to have clicked on a link. Your goal is to make sure that if it is looking for some sort of data input, that input is not occurring. So one of the best practices is to leverage a password manager, since that's going to be tied to a domain, so that if you're going to the wrong website, this is going to check that link for you and say, you're going to have to do some work to push your credentials in.
And the great thing about that is because it is checking those links, it's going to detect some of the more sophisticated type attacks where you're using Unicode characters in the URL that look very similar to normal characters that you would see. And if something doesn't autofill a password, that should be a flag, and that should be something we should be training our users on. It's like always use password manager. If something changes, see this as an issue, investigate why, or report it to the security team. And that will help for that. It's obviously not foolproof, but it can help. When you get a notification about something, don't click on the information in there. Get into the habit of going to the place to get that information. So let's just say you get an email that says, "Hey, my McDonald's kitchen account expired," or something like that. You don't click on the link here that says in the email to do that. You go to the corporate internet page and navigate to the section where you do that, and then you'll be able to update those credentials. Likewise, you get any other notification from like your bank, for example, saying, "Hey, we need you to click here and update your social security number." Go to your bank's website. You've probably been there before, and then log in normally and see that. If you're not sure, if you can't find that information, you can call your bank and see, is this something that you've sent out? And at that point, if they say yes and be like, "Where on the web page can I update this?" I don't want to click on the link in the email because, especially if it's something where it's like has a tracking cookie or something like that, you don't know where that's going. So why would you want to do that? Lastly, integrations for tools can be super useful. So an example of this is like someone shares a Google Doc with you, you get an email that says, "Hey, someone shared a Google Doc with you. Click on this link to view it." Which, depending on the content of that documentation or that email, you might be like, "Oh, I want to click on that right away." But that's a great hook to try to get someone to click on something because everyone knows what a Google Doc share page looks like. If it's something that's like, company salary spreadsheet or something like that, people are going to be like, I want to see this and click on it. Um, but if you have an integration where you'll get a Slack notification for that as well, you'll see, I got email. Slack also let me know that this document was shared with me. I have two things that are confirming that my account got something shared to it. You can still log into Google Drive and look at the things that are recently shared at you and find it that way. You have a third level of validation that this is legitimate. But just kind of getting in the habit of being skeptical and checking different things and not immediately acting on things, that can be helpful. Although a lot of this stuff happens late at night when people are either tired or distracted, less thinking less clearly. So you'll see that. So Meredith, what about detecting threats and reducing impact?
So let's talk about reducing impact first, since that goes, really to the heaviest portion of this, since at the end of the day, end users are the biggest vulnerability, whether it be when you're going after a physical attack or something digital. So let's talk through password resets. So if at all practical, make sure that you're resetting passwords in person. Have somebody walk down to the help desk. Or if you are doing something on a video where, there's a chance for deep fakes, have them, blur a camera, unblur a camera, hold up a couple different items, use as many sources as you can to validate that they are who they say they are, and they have, something with company branding. Say, you know, call us from a phone, turn your laptop over and show us the serial number on the back or something of that nature. But always do as close to in person as you can, since that is the highest likelihood of being able to validate one's identity. And be aware that voice and video can always be AI generated, so it's always best to take somebody calling in or hopping on a Zoom, a Teams call, whatever the case may be, with a bit of skepticism, because you can't always trust what's at the other end of that screen now.
And this is one of the cases it's going to get harder and harder, but if you ask for things and assume that you're going to like ask for some information that should be at the top of someone's head and there shouldn't be an unnatural delay to get that information, that can be one of the clues. Something like, can you show me your driver's license? You see them physically go and get it and hold it up to the camera or something like that. There's still a risk of that sort of thing, but is that something, someone gets their driver's license in 30 seconds versus they come back, like, oh, I have to call you back to get that. That's another red flag.
Yeah. And saying, can I see the front? Great. Can I see the back? And seeing that immediate flip around, that's one of those key things there.
That can help. Not perfect, but requiring multiple forms of ID though. So like, is someone going to have a driver's license and also something else in their wallet with their name on it? Like
Costco ID.
yeah, that your Costco card could be a second thing with your name and photo on there. Does that photo match? Like it can cover up the Costco membership numbers. You don't, screenshot that or something like that. But those sorts of things, like just making it more difficult for a computer system to be able to do that and easier for identifying a human is kind of what you have to go with that. But person is always going to be better. But with remote work, that's going to be not practical all the time.
So when you are actually detecting social engineering attempts, from a technical standpoint, having alerts to review MFA device changes, or when somebody has put in a request to either change the MFA, change the phone number associated with an account, that's a pretty big red flag. That's something really good for risk-based alerting to say, okay, somebody has updated their phone number. Now they've, reset their password. Now they're attempting to log in from a new location. All of those three things are a pretty big red flag to say, hey, this account is doing something that we haven't seen before. Something's a bit off here. That's something that you want to send over to your SOC to investigate.
And having like a policy of manager approval of some sort for that makes a lot of sense in these cases. And also having a situation where that manager is regularly checking with the employees and has that relationship to be able to know that. And that's just having a corporate culture of being well equipped to deal with that.
Yes. And empowering your help desk to have no power at the end of the day to make that change is one of the most powerful ways to both reduce the impact and help detect that. Say, hey, I can't reset your password on this first call. I'm going to, write up a ticket, get this into the system, put the request in. Somebody's going to call you back at the phone numbers you have listed on your HR account and go from there. And they say, well, I need that phone number updated. Say, well, I'm going to have to find another way to validate that, but that's going to be handled by an internal process. Take that away from the help desk, who, of course, within their name wants to be helpful, but also reduce some of the ability for an attacker to just easily go in and reset a password.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that the help desk pushing back on thing is not a metric that they're, written up for or something like that. Like them having red flags about that as the main line of defense for things, like that's a good thing. Yes, it may result in things being more difficult for employees and their helpfulness might go down a little bit, but that's a really important thing to reduce some of the threats that we're seeing. I'd also say lookalike domain monitoring. We saw like on one of those previous examples where it was one that looked like a healthcare provider. But if you have an organization that has a public domain, which is everyone, monitor for domains that are recently registered that look like your organization. I worked with a company that actually did this. We had some students doing a pen test. One of them registered a domain. This was within scope for the pen test that they were doing. The company actually got contacted by their provider. I forget which provider that was doing DNS monitoring, but they did that. They took it down, and that wasn't actually effective. And it was something that it kind of slipped a little bit through the cracks, knowing that this was a domain that was not registered, but they took action on that before anything could happen. And looking for domains that match your organization is great for that to avoid your employees getting phished.
Yeah, both appending with additional domains, subdomains based on a new product that may have recently launched, or just typo squatting your standard, you know, hurricane mabs or something, whatever the case may be. Yeah, those are close enough with the keyboard that somebody could flub it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with a couple minutes left, we'll open up for Q&A, and we've already had some great audience feedback. I don't know if there are any other questions that you've seen, Meredith, since you're closer to the chat than I am, but
Yes. There is one from Cassandra. What are any tools that you believe would be the best monitor for insider threat? So that one's really interesting to me because if you are an employee who's acting maliciously, your best way to detect that is a well-rounded risk-based alerting posture where you are monitoring as many different things as you can so that when somebody is trying to access a file share that they wouldn't normally, or they are downloading data, or they are hopping into Teams calls at weird hours, or poking around on different SharePoint sites that they normally don't go to. All of those things are being flagged as risk events that somebody will then see a summary of all of those events and say, okay, this, and this. They've never done these things before, or they're starting to poke around more at things that aren't within the department that it says that they're in. So somebody in finance is going after marketing and some crown jewels, and now they're looking at something on the IT SharePoint. That's a pretty big red flag. And leveraging risk-based alerting to compile all of that together and bubble it up into something that is suspicious.
yeah, and a common thread for like an insider threat you'll see is a lot of like snooping like activity where you're looking through things you shouldn't be. And RBA is awesome for detecting that type of behavior where it's anomalous and a lot more widespread than what you typically see for someone's normal job.
Yeah, both that and the odd hours, as well as just performing more activity than they would normally. If you see somebody who's pretty lax on their day to day, they're doing their job, but they're not hyper focused on anything, or being very busy. They don't have a ton of meetings. Somebody's suddenly starting to block off their calendar constantly and working long hours when they don't have, anything like an audit or something going on. That's a pretty big red flag. And that's something that you want to monitor for pending, whatever your communication suite is, as well as, logging of hourly tracking and things of that nature.
We'll see a note there from Fred about looking for jobs using company resources. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That is something a lot of the user-based alerting or RBA things will take into play. Like, are you making DNS requests to job hunting sites? Are you also accessing a lot of things on a file share?
Yeah. Are
Those two
you
things together.
also watching Netflix during the workday? And, are you getting a bunch of firewall block hits or just watch list hits for interesting categories that aren't related to work? So maybe you're spending 3 hours on a gaming website, plus you've got Netflix running, plus you're accessing a bunch of file shares, but you're not submitting enough hours. Those are all red flags that you leverage risk-based alerting to compile together, or UEBA, user entity behavior analytics, to say, okay, this user's doing something a bit weird, that they really probably shouldn't be doing if they are just focused on work during the workday.
Yeah. I don't see any other questions. So I know we mentioned risk-based alerting, so we would be amiss to not at least talk about hurricane and implementing risk-based alerting, but that is something we are able to help with. Anything Splunk related and security services. Meredith knows a lot more about that than me, though.
There are a lot of risk-based alerting nerds here who our goal is to build out as well-rounded of a security alerting platform so that we can catch both insider threats as well as external threat actors, and we cover the full scope of somebody internally who's malicious, as well as your random nation state of wherever coming in to attempt to steal your crown jewels.
Yeah. So with that, thank you all for attending. If you're interested in any of the things Meredith just talked about, there's an email address. You can also reach out to us. I'm Tom at hurricanelabs.com.
I'm also Tom at hurricanelabs.com.
Or
I'm Meredith at hurricanelabs.com, or M Casper. But yeah.
It's great to see everyone. You
Thank you
all
for
have a
hanging out.
great rest of the year. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We will be looking forward to seeing you again in another webinar in 2026.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Adios.